Patrick Craven speaks for Cosatu and joins us now on Newsnight. Mr. Craven, good evening to you and welcome. Now, you weren't part of this court case, but having watched it from the sidelines, did Cosatu hold out any hope that Outer would be successful?
We hoped so, and we're disappointed that it wasn't. But it's important to realise that this was about whether the government had followed correct legal procedures. It wasn't a judgment about the issue of e-tolling itself, and as far as we're concerned, nothing has changed. We still remain as much opposed to it as we did beforehand, and the court has no bearing on that.
But those who are opposed to it are starting to run out of options. What is your strategy now? You say that you're going to approach Parliament. What does that mean?
Well, there is a piece of legislation, it's called the Transport and Related Laws Amendments Bill, which has to be passed before the government can actually implement tolls. And we will be insisting that this must be properly debated. Like any other parliamentary bill, it mustn't just be steamrolled through. But at the same time, we will be continuing our campaign of mass action on the streets, which we've already started with marches in Pretoria and Johannesburg on the 30th of November, and the very successful slow drive on the highways on the 6th of December, which clearly showed that we were right to think there is overwhelming public opposition. That is why we're continuing to ask people not to buy e-tags, to make it as difficult as possible to get this system off the ground.
Go slows and slow drives. You can't do this in perpetuity.
Not in perpetuity, but we believe that the government can't implement e-tolls in perpetuity. Sooner or later, the whole system will collapse. And what we're saying to the government, listen to us now, before it's too late and you waste millions more.
Why would the whole system collapse?
Because we think it's totally unworkable. Compared to any other form of revenue raising, a huge amount of money has to be spent simply collecting the money. And if a lot of people refuse to pay, which we have plenty of evidence is the case, it's going to cost even more to try and extract that money from them. There are far, far better ways of raising this money, particularly through taxation, where the apparatus already exists, and of course it's much fairer, because it's graduated on the basis of what you can pay.
Government will turn around and say it's got the green light from the court, it's going to go ahead come hell or high water.
No, as I say, the court has merely ruled about the legality of it, not the merits of it.
And surely that's all the ammunition that government needs.
Not at all. There are plenty of very bad laws that have been passed quite legally, which we've opposed and which ultimately have not proved workable. This will be a classic example of a law which is unpopular, unenforceable, unworkable, and we only hope the government will realise sooner rather than later that they're going to have to change to a different policy, and also, of course, to do far more to improve other forms of public transport so that there really is an alternative.
Is it not, having said all of that, and you can insist as much as you like on what happens in Parliament, you can hold up cars on the highway, this is, in the short term at least, a fait accompli?
No. We still live in a democracy, and I still believe that people power has a role to play. And it will, in this case. We're absolutely convinced that sooner or later we're going to win. Let's hope we can do it quickly rather than over a long, protracted period.
Is it your belief that SANRAL has the capacity to roll out the system immediately? Outer seems to think not.
No, we agree with Outer on that. There are very big questions. And it doesn't even have the legal authority, which is why they've had to try and rush through this piece of legislation which has been cobbled together and must be properly interrogated.
Patrick Craven, thank you very much for joining us. He speaks for Cosatu here on Newsnight.